Hey guys, my name is Toufi Saliba, and I'm going to be talking about crypto economics, how it can be applied for cybersecurity, and perhaps I can cover and tell you a little bit about what's crypto economics and where does it come from, and who and how long has it been running. So um, now, many of you have heard of something that is called the blockchain. And it's actually a technology that was utilized in Bitcoin. Now, many folks, they start referring to Bitcoin as if it's the drug money or the guns money or whatnot, but it's actually a phenomenal science that improved the value transfer in the world without having to depend on an intermediary. Okay. Now, how it did that, it included something that is called, we refer to it as crypto economics, and I'm going to cover some of those elements how they can be applied to cybersecurity. Many of the cybersecurity folks that they're probably listening to this or watching this, they might be aware of certain elements of that, but I'm going to talk about certain elements that they most likely not aware of because not all blockchains are ledger-based, which means they can be distributed in truly distributed computing, which means they can scale, which means you can apply them to prevent DDoS attack and many other, cybersecurity elements. So imagine you have a world that is running on smartphones alone. Is that possible using distributed computing? Certain proof points show that it is possible. Certainly, we won't be able to do a lot of videos or a lot of things that require streaming, but you can certainly run global finance on smartphones alone. No servers, no cloud, no database, no miners, all machines, same class. Now, that gives, let's say each user is a human, then you count as like one node. Now, how would the cybersecurity world look like in the open, decentralized, autonomous blockchain? And I stress that it's actually decentralized and it's autonomous and it's open. Because some people, they talk about blockchain that is like private blockchain. It kind of like saying that the internet versus intranet. Certainly that metaphor is not the same, but the intranet that exists inside a certain company doesn't have the same power of the internet. It has something, it's kind of like a copy of the internet, but it's got like very local. So if you were to compare the actual power it would be kind of similar. So you can always have things like when you make the comparison, like the security used to be like keeping things behind the firewall, and then suddenly folks are saying like, well, hold on a second, you can actually have the cloud, and they were going to change that. Many people were not comfortable with the cloud, but now most of the cybersecurity experts, they would tell you that putting your company data on a secure cloud is likely to be more secure than keeping it in your data center. For many reasons, like having your own data center, you need to hire the best talent in every single aspect of the things. Meanwhile, the people that are taking care of the cloud, they can do it. Now, the blockchain is not yet recognized by cybersecurity experts, but it's likely to be the new paradigm shift in cybersecurity, and you get to see yourself why. That image on the left here, or on my left, might look like just something describing decentralized image. I'll get back to that image, but that actually is an image of a file, of how it would look, an actual file in a decentralized way, and having certain redundancy, and so the future of cyber security, this file that I refer to, think of it that it has a unique number for the life of it in the universe, and that unique number is just not in a certain company, not just in a certain area. It belongs to, let's say, a huge binary tree that has 256 levels. That binary tree, for those that are familiar with binary trees, you know that at level 160, you can have more points in that tree than the estimated atoms in the universe. So when you think of like 256 levels, you can have like 1 trillion universes representation for every single atom. So you can have a lot of points in it. You can have pretty much as you need. Now, why? When I say that, this simulation of binary trees is like 5 levels, but imagine 256 levels. And on level 32 is where you have the actual files. You'll have a unique number for, kind of like IPv6 gives a unique number for every device. This one gives a unique number for every device and gives a unique number for every single file that exists in that universe. What does it take to actually get something like this working? Some folks be like, oh, wow, so now we have to change the entire infrastructure. None of that. Actually, it takes an app installed on a smartphone. Done. An app installed on your computer. Done. So the open decentralized autonomous blockchain, is it secure? Is it not? When you look at the longest standing autonomous machine that's been running on the planet, it's called Bitcoin. It's been running for 8.5 years. And if it wasn't secure, it wouldn't be running. It actually pays for people. It gives an incentive. It's kind of like one of the articles that I wrote recently, that it's, although it wasn't built by AI folks, but it's a component of AI to have an autonomous machine running, and it pays for itself. So how decentralized governance, how is that secure? And we do have some images here showing like how centralized internet moved to something that is more decentralized, and it can move to even more decentralized. Bitcoin is decentralized. There are over like 1,000 cryptocurrencies that copy Bitcoin. But there's like evolution of that protocol to get it to be a little more decentralized, something like that I'm very familiar with, and it's called the Toda protocol. Why did we get to the Toda protocol, and what's the actual benefit of that in the cybersecurity, but it's also outside of cybersecurity? It's like in finance. So when we talk about finance, you need to, those that they spend the most amount of money towards cybersecurity, they're often to protect money, and we caution nations and smart cities of electronic money traps. And it's when any company nowadays, they come and say, it's like, hey, we're going to give you electronic money system into your smart city. Yet smart city by definition should be self-sustainable. Or smart nation, or any region that is like any emerging market. But what they're not telling, or sometimes they probably don't even know, is that it's not the fees that need to be concerned about, it's the actual cost. So there's a difference between fees and costs. So if you're PayPal and go and saying like, hey, Zimbabwe, we're going to give you an electronic money system on your phones and people can transact with each other, there's no fees. But then if you ask the question, when a transaction happens from you to your neighbor buying coffee in Zimbabwe, and then let's say you take your credit card, you take your PayPal wallet or your Apple Pay or whatnot, the transaction is happening where? It's in some database outside of Zimbabwe. And the customer service that if you were to call, they're outside as well. And if you were to investigate where's the cost really, you would find out there's like, by the time you finish buying coffee, there are like, from your neighbor, there are 10 people there getting paid. So if that's what the electronic money is doing, that means it's leaking money out of your country, out of your region through every single transaction. And that's not going to help towards prosperity. It's going to continue making poor countries and regions poorer and poorer, because they cannot build those servers and they cannot build things like that. They can sustain themselves that way. Now, the next problem here is that the governance, because those that control your money can control your people. And the third one is centralized exchanges. Like if you are running your entire electronic money system, let's say on PayPal, and I'm not really here picking on PayPal, just PayPal is one out of like thousands of them out there. Uh, if you take that money that you have, let's say you think that you have this money in PayPal, and then you cross border, you go to South Africa or you go to Cape Town and you want to spend this money, you have to go through an exchange. That exchange is centralized in one way or another. And I'm not only talking about exchange for currency, I'm talking now the additional layer of exchange that you have to take that money from that system, because the people in other nation or whatnot, they may not necessarily be using that system. So that can be dangerous. Well, how are they going to get that money? They have to go install like an app that with PayPal, and if they do get it there, how are they going to transition to their bank? They have to have all of those ties and whatnot. So effectively, when a centralized money system with electronic money coming and saying like, hey, we're going to enable your region or whatnot, you need to be very, very wary and ask all of those questions. And that's why we truly think that the actual those are core security elements of the system. Whether the leakage is happening because a hacker coming in and taking the money away, or somebody's like they're tricking you by telling you it's like transaction, it's free or whatnot. We need to get to the bottom of it and make sure that you're giving people what they deserve. They work hard for their money. They need to own that money and not being controlled by someone else. So the current cost of global transactions, it's cost over $940 billion to secure it. And that's the cost. So if you were to call Visa, say your merchant, be like, hey, why are you charging us 2.5% for the transactions? And if you really get the true answer, it's not because Visa is mean. It's because that's their cost. They have to pay 10 other people. So that can make things like very expensive, adding up to $940 billion a year. So if you take that system that we have that is powering 1.9 billion people and try to apply it for the 2.5 billion smartphones that they are unbanked, they don't necessarily have that much money to kind of pay to secure those transactions. So we know the existing system doesn't necessarily work. So paying for security $940 billion a year is a lot of money, and needs to be a solution that can be more efficient. And this is what's being suggested here with crypto economics as well. I usually start by saying who I am and what do I do. Like I run a startup factory called Privacy Shell, and I'm a co-author of Toda protocol, and I'm a chair of ACM, PBCC. I'm not sure if you know what ACM is. It's the Association of Computing Machinery, and it's 110,000 members globally, one of the most prestigious in computer science. They're members of ACM, and it's the issuer of Turing Award winners. And we also have over 25 companies now that we do advisory for and help found with Privacy Shell. But Toda has been getting me quite busy, and it's basically blockchain protocol that is fully decentralized. It's kind of like if Bitcoin were to, take care of gold, some things it needs to take care of cash, but at the same time, it can also take care of cybersecurity, and show you how. Now, we're not intending of taking it ourselves, but there are a lot of cybersecurity experts that they may want to take it that way. People I work with, this is mainly with the Toda-Algorand, that it's a combination of Toda and Algorand, that it's built by Silvio Micali, who's a Turing Award winner. He's one of the top guys out there in the world when it comes to cryptography. And you refer to Silvio more as like my Einstein, and he's a fabulous guy. So that's Silvio, and then we have Sergei Gorbunov, who's the assistant professor at Waterloo, and he was actually a student at MIT where Silvio teaches. And we have fabulous Lala Tretikov, who's also an AI expert, and she's the head Wikimedia Foundation globally. And Todd Gebhardt, who's a cybersecurity expert, and he was heading McAfee for 11 years before sold to Intel, and he became the vice chairman of Intel Security for a while, and then transitioned and moved on, and he's the chairman of our company. And then there's the Dan Tolliver, and who's the ex-NASA. We call him the rocket scientist in the house. We have 57 other fabulous people we work with, but that's mainly the management team of Toda-Algorand and founders. Decentralized governance equals strong governance. Why do we say that? And it's, if you think of centralized governance, it's one person can change their mind, they can do whatever they want. But when you have like a decentralized governance, that's to say, and you have 1 million phones, there's something that's called Sybil attack. You really need to have control over 50% in order to control that system. So it makes it a lot harder to manipulate it and so on and so forth. So when it comes to saying how can we get strong governance, well, decentralized governance can be the strongest governance that we've seen to date. And it's basically, it increases the security because we feel that governance is a security element. And then it's important to take care of the efficiency. Currently, if you look at Bitcoin, it's not that efficient. I mean, Bitcoin consumes more electricity than the country of Iceland. We feel because it's been exploited by a lot of, certain evolution of the ASICs, and it was estimated that all of those things are going to grow together, but certain elements in the computer advance much faster than all the other elements. So what we're working on here is like something that is near zero cost per transaction. What we mean by that, when you hear that the internet is for free, but we all know nothing is really for free. There's still a cost for the internet. It costs you to open your computer, a little bit costs electricity, a little bit cost for the internet, wherever you are in the world, just to pay for internet one way or another. And this cost end up adding up, and we want a system that the cost can be similar and not exploited in a way that you have to burn electricity, that it's an essential element here on Earth to just because we don't want any intermediary. But I mean, if it's going to come down to that, we're willing to do it. I mean, currently with Bitcoin, we spend today close to $9 million a day. And that's more like, think of it of like, Homo sapien voices screaming, saying it's like we're willing to burn $9 million for additional security, having decentralized governance, just so we don't have a centralized governance. And that's a big, big message. But if we can do better, we want to do better before we can get it global, because currently the scalability as well, it's like 3 transactions per second and maybe 6 now, or 7. There's some way to scale it that is off-chain, but we want to be able to scale it all on-chain. Strong tax policy. You can have a great system that collect taxes, so you don't have to really print money out of thin air. If you're a government, you want to build roads or whatnot, you can build that, in something that refer to as smart contract. So if you are an honest government, you can ensure the subsequent government can be honest as well, because the money is collected can go in to build truly roads and not take advantage of people. And the scalability needs to be there as well. It needs to scale, so then can cover the entire globe. So is it an opportunity or is it a threat? Now, many people, they view it as a threat. They view that this undermines the existing system and whatnot. But I think there's a big point that is being missed here. It's opening a market that is twice bigger than our market is where we should be looking towards. And if you open that market, just the financial service alone, they'll be able to make $2 trillion from that market. $2 trillion. So currently, where do we get that number? We generate about $8.3 trillion for the financial services. from that, $940 billion going for transactions. So the majority is not transactions. So if we were to agree that let's find a way to not have the same model for the rest of the world, we can keep it the same in this world that we live in. But I mean, for the rest of the world that they just have smartphones, let's give them a strong governance that they can depend on, that can have phenomenal security, and open up a market that can be $2 trillion. So we feel that it's an opportunity, but folks, if they don't necessarily do anything about it, will of course become a threat, because it's just, you didn't participate in what's coming next. So, so it also brings a lot of opportunities in many different sectors. We feel that the future can be like the cost per transaction is the actual security, and that can be the fees. So then there isn't anything that is hidden. Now, if you were to subsidize that, if it's very small, then you can do it, and you don't have to spend $940 billion to just power the emerging market. So if it's $9 billion and the opportunity is at $2 trillion, then it's a great opportunity. And at the end of the day, I mean, if you get to bring the world closer to prosperity, that can be a great thing, because with prosperity, people, they'll be able to buy more products, and then they'll be able to, instead of starving, they'll be able to get more products to their families. And if they buy more products and you making those products, they can sell more products. Now, one of the things that I would like to mention here is in this slide, and I said I'd get back to this slide here, and I'm here now. Think of a file that you're actually sending today to the world, and you can take that file and send it to 1 million people or 1 billion people using HTTP protocol, or SMTP if you send it via email or whatnot. Now, if you taking this file and then, let's say, sending by email, for example, let's start with that, and you want to send me a picture, and it's costing you, let's say, 1 cent to send that picture, 0.01 cent, you're still going to send that picture, because it's kind of costing you that already with the cost of the internet and computing and whatnot. So if that is embedded in every single file that you're transmitting that has this tiny little value, if you use the existing blockchain, of course it won't work, because the cost per transaction for Bitcoin, like we were just saying, is prohibitive. But if you're using a protocol, let's say like the Toda or Toda-Algorand protocol, you're able to take a file that has a value that is like from your crypto wallet, that it's worth, let's say, 0.01 cent, and have it to be part of that image that you're actually sending. So for me to receive this file from you, I'm basically receiving 0.01 cent. Now, if you were to be spammer sending 1 million of those emails per minute, it becomes non-economical, and that's why we call it, crypto economics. Because the benefit that you would get as a spammer is not as high as the cost. If you think about it, if you take it to the next level with DDoS attack, for example, if it's a necessity that you're actually transmitting value when you're actually pinging certain server, requesting certain information, although it's very, very small. But for DDoS attacker, when they're actually sending millions of those requests per second, and then they'll be spending thousands of dollars per second. Okay, so that would becomes non-doable. And if it is doable, and you are the server receiving that attack, then you're receiving thousands of dollars per second. You probably enjoy it. So that's what we mean when we say like crypto economics. And the existing blockchains, they are ledger based. They are not as efficient to do things this way, but the things that we've explored with Toda, it can be done. We don't have the bandwidth to go and build this. This is just a message we're saying to the world, and this is a free protocol. We're giving it. We'd be more than happy to share with any cybersecurity folks and give it to them. I think the benefit that we would get out of this is making the world a better place, and would be more than happy to share. That's it for me. Thank you very much. Here's my contacts, t@privacyshell.com, and that's my phone number. don't call me. Send me an email first if you don't know each other, because I kind of screen all calls. But if you do email me, I pretty much respond all the time, especially for general requests. Thank you very much.